Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Chris Dost. Welcome back to our series on the Hebrew text and Masorah of the book of Amos. Before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell so that you'll be notified when I publish videos like this in the future. And please be sure to share this video on social media and to leave a comment below. I really appreciate your support. All right, let's get started. Today I want to take a look at the critical apparatus of Biblia Hebraica Quinta, which I will hereafter refer to as BHQ, and we're going to look at the variant readings that they have presented for Amos 1:1. So let's read Amos 1:1 first in Hebrew, and then we'll look at the BHQ apparatus. So Amos 1:1 reads, Divrei Amos asher haya van noqdim mitakoa asher chaza al Yisrael bimei Uzziah melech Yehuda uvimei Yerovam ben Yoash melech Yisrael shnatayim lifnei hara'ash. And remember that the number 2 for verse 2 is misplaced in this electronic edition. That should appear after the sof pasuk here. All right, so one more time in Hebrew, Divrei Amos asher haya van noqdim mitakoa asher chaza al Yisrael bimei Uzziah melech Yehuda uvimei Yerovam ben Yoash melech Yisrael shnatayim lifnei hara'ash. Okay, so let's go over to the apparatus. Okay, so here's what we have for Amos 1:1. The first variant reading concerns van noqdim, which means something like among the sheep breeders. I prefer not to go with the translation shepherds, which is a matter I've addressed in a previous video. All right, so the word van noqdim, before we look at the discussion in the apparatus, let's consult the 3 major manuscripts that BHQ draws from, and that is the Leningrad Codex, the Aleppo Codex, and the Cairo Codex. And the Leningrad Codex we will refer to as L, the Aleppo Codex we refer to as A, and the Cairo Codex we refer to as C. All right, so let's bring up the Leningrad Codex. Okay, so here is the Leningrad Codex. Amos 1:1 begins right here. And here is the word van noqdim, which is under consideration here in the apparatus. I'll zoom in for you here. Van noqdim. And we'll just look at the Aleppo Codex now to compare. And here we see it in the Aleppo Codex. Van noqdim. And they are pointed exactly the same way. Again, here's Leningrad and Aleppo. Notice that both of them have the Cercilis for the Masorah note. And the same is true here in the Cairo Codex as well. Here we are again back in Leningrad. The only difference that you see here is that in Leningrad, there is a Rafeh mark above both the Beit to show that it's spirantized, that it's V, not B, and a Rafeh mark over the Beged Kefet letter Dalet as well to show that this also in Tiberian pronunciation would have been spirantized. So we would transliterate that oftentimes as a DH or something like that. So in Tiberian pronunciation, it would have been van noqdim, but when I read the Hebrew text, I don't follow Tiberian pronunciation. I use modern Israeli pronunciation. But it's important to understand when you're studying the Masorah and the Masoretic text that spirantized Beged Kefet letters are often marked with this Rafeh mark here. Let's go back and look at Aleppo. You see that the Rafeh mark is not present in Aleppo, but it is present in Cairo. All right, so let's look into what the issue is with the word van noqdim in the apparatus. We see that this reading is supported by the following witnesses. We have a variety of Greek witnesses here. This alpha refers to Aquila. The sigma refers to Symmachus. The epsilon is for Quinta. The Quinta is an early Greek source from the Common Era of disputed origin. The theta is for Theodotion. The V is for the Vulgate or Latin. And the S is for the Syriac. So we see that the reading van noqdim among the sheep breeders is supported by Greek, Latin, and Syriac evidence, as well as being present in the important Masoretic manuscripts. Now there's other Greek evidence, however, which does not support the reading. And so the G here refers to the Old Greek, which reads en nakarim, en nakarim. Now, if you retrovert this back into Hebrew, the Greek en is the expected translation of the Hebrew preposition beit at the beginning of van noqdim. The reading nakarim is clearly an error which seems to be based on a misreading of dalet for the similar letter resh. And therefore, the editorial team of BHQ has determined that this should be labeled as an error in writing the consonantal text, which is abbreviated as follows. Finally, we come to the Targumic evidence. The Targums are ancient Aramaic translations of the Hebrew text. Targum Jonathan of the Prophets, which is cited here, dates to the 3rd or 4th century probably, although the traditions are clearly older than that. It translates van noqdim as marei gitin, marei gitin. Now, marei is Aramaic for lords of, masters of, that sort of thing, and gitin means flocks, so it means masters of the flocks. Now, this is actually a very good translation of van noqdim, in my opinion. And that is the reason why BHQ adds the comment, liberty in respect to semantic matters. Liberty in respect to semantic matters. Now, for those of you who are new to BHQ, you will note that each of the variant readings is separated by this line here, this vertical stroke. And in the preface to BHQ, it notes that this separates a reading and its witnesses from other readings and their witnesses within a case. And so we have the first reading, which is van noqdim, the reading of the Masoretic text, the evidence in support of that reading. Then we have a vertical stroke to say, okay, there's another reading that is presented here in the Greek. The evidence is given, a comment is given, and then another reading is given after a vertical stroke. Once all of the evidence has been presented, you will see a dot, and this marks the end of a case in the apparatus. So, in other words, we're moving on to a new issue. Okay, so the next variant reading concerns the form mitakoa, mitakoa. Let's look at this in the manuscripts. Here it is in Leningrad. Here it is in Aleppo. And finally in Cairo. The only difference between the three manuscripts is that Aleppo and Leningrad have a surcillis to refer us to a Masoretic note in the margin. Let's zoom out. The surcillis over van noqdim refers to this lamed. The one for mitakoa refers to that one. And remember, over asher, this is not a surcillis, but a cantillation or accent mark. Okay, so what does BHQ say here? Well, it says that the reading mitakoa, which is found unanimously in the three major Masoretic manuscripts that we've looked at, and that the editors of BHQ have looked at, is supported by the Greek, the Latin, the Aramaic, that's the T for Targum. But then you'll notice that the S for Syriac is in parentheses. And the explanation that is given here says, when parentheses are used around a portion of text within a variant reading, they signal that the words contained within them are not themselves part of the reading, but are the context of the words actually constituting the reading at issue in the case. When used around the signum for a witness, they indicate that the reading in that witness agrees with the reading with which the witness is aligned on the matter at issue in the case, but varies in matters of detail that are not relevant to the case. So in other words, we're not going to get into the minutiae here. the Syriac supports the reading, found in the Masoretic text manuscripts. Now we see that there's a second reading here, en thekue. BHQ notes that some Greek manuscripts have this reading, and the editorial team has determined that this is a difference in the writing of the consonantal text. Now, in the commentary in BHQ, they explain that the reading of the Greek manuscripts may have arisen from an inner Greek corruption of the preposition ek into the preposition en, or from a misreading of the Hebrew mem as beit. So going back to BHQ, you'll notice that the Greek here is en, which is a more natural translation of the Hebrew preposition b, as we saw above, but the preposition used in the Masoretic text is a mem, not a beit. Now, the reading of the first occurrence of Yisrael here is supported by a retroverted reading, as well as the Vulgate, the Syriac, and the Targums, so Latin, Syriac, and Aramaic. In the Old Greek, however, instead of Israel, we have Jerusalem, which is supported by the Old Greek. The judgment is that this is an assimilation to specific words or phrases in the context of the current passage. So when we look at the first occurrence of Israel here, presumably the editors are saying that this was changed in Greek to Jerusalem because of perhaps the word Jerusalem, which occurs down here. Now, if you want to check the Greek in translation, we can look at the New English translation of the Septuagint. So here we have words of Amos that came in noqdim out of thekue, which he saw concerning Jerusalem. By the way, the Aramaic, we have that here, the words of Amos, who was an owner of the flocks from Tekoa. So it seems very clear that Yisrael is the correct reading. And then finally we have Uzziah, which in ML, that's the Leningrad Codex, that is in error. And you will notice that the difference between the two variant readings is that the Zion does not have a dagesh in it like it does in Aleppo and Cairo. Let's go to the manuscripts and look at that again. Here is Uzziah. There is no dagesh in the Zion. But when we go to Aleppo, there it is. And when we go to Cairo, we see it here as well. So these are the variant readings presented in BHQ concerning Amos 1:1. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, to click the bell below so that you'll be notified when videos like this appear in the future. And please be sure to share this video on social media and leave us a comment below. All right, take care, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.